Hi, I'm Tess,
Hi, I'm Sarah, and we are.
the Happy Edit Sisters. Happiness isn't just being happy, it's an embodied feeling that starts with how we approach life, our actions, and our mindset. Everyone has a range of emotions, and that's a good thing.
Join us as we dive into what it means to be happy and how we build a foundation for happiness through different lenses. Hi, Tess.
Hi, Sarah.
How are you?
I am very good. I was just thinking, though, that I think we're in luck because our thunderstorm that we had going on this morning is now quieted down. I was a little bit worried, like, oh goodness, how is that going to sound on while we're recording?
It might sound nice and relaxing, like a little bit of like rain tapping on the windows, a bit of a bang of the thunder.
Maybe. It kind of goes along with what we're going to be talking about as well, because we're talking about the nervous system.
Beyond jumping out of our skin.
Yeah, exactly. How are you today?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. So, obviously, it's in the morning here whilst we're recording. So I dropped the kids off at school this morning and then went to the gym, but there was no air conditioning in the gym, so it was absolutely roasting. So, but it was good. It was good. People pay for like hot yoga and stuff like that and hot workouts. So, it was definitely a hot workout.
Yeah, you just got the hot for free.
Thanks. Didn't have to pay extra.
You know, everything works out in the end.
But it was good. It was good fun. It was good fun. So back home, got a shower, and now ready for the day ahead.
Oh, very good. Glad I don't have to smell you.
I'm nice and fresh now.
All the way here in Spain, right next door to you. If I could smell you from here, man, there would be something wrong for sure.
So today, Tess, we're going to talk about, and now I've got to make sure that I pronounce it right, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system, which is a really important system, automatic system that we have. There is a response to fight, flight, freeze. So yeah, it felt like it was really important for us to have a conversation about this.
Yeah. So I want to start off first. So our autonomic nervous system is a nervous system in our body that, responds to our surroundings. And so we have two parts, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic nervous system is the part of our nervous system that kind of looks at around in our surroundings and tries to see if there are any threats in our surroundings. And then if we do feel like we're threatened in some way, then it triggers the sympathetic nervous system and our muscles start to tense. There's signals in our brain that send out signals to different parts of our body that release hormones. And so those hormones like cortisol go out into the body and help us, move, get that energy flowing so that we can flee or fight the situation. Sometimes this kind of overloads and we go into freeze mode. And so we just kind of stop and we can't, we don't do anything, right? We also there's a new part of that people are looking at now is also the tendon befriend of this. So you're kind of looking at, how can I respond to this situation so that I can, sort of support the whole community here. So it's sort of an interesting another aspect of our autonomic nervous system that we've not really looked at a lot.
I've
And
never
then
heard of that before, Tess.
yeah, it's really fascinating. So it's like and I'll be perfectly honest, this is not the part of the nervous system that I know as much about, but it's kind of looking at, okay, how can I support myself, and then how can I support sort of my surroundings through that, and or more, how can I support my surroundings through that, and then hopefully you're looking back at yourself as well. And then so the parasympathetic is our calm, relax, digest part of our nervous system. So this, the the whole thing is there for you, to support you, right? And we want both of them to be more or less balanced. We don't want, the sympathetic to be really, really high all the time. We don't want the parasympathetic to be really, really high either, because then we kind of go into those sort of dull, sort of like zoned out modes as well. So we want them to be balanced in our system. And it's very much a journey, right? It's kind of a flow. It's an ebb and flow of these things. You're never going to have it like perfectly balanced, right? Or maybe you will, but it probably won't last forever, right? Because certain things will stress us and certain things will help us calm down. The issue with our modern day life is that we tend to be in this more of a stress mode. And so why is that? So our body has a system called the Proprioceptive System, and it's constantly scanning your surroundings for, as I said before, threats, right? Something that could maybe hurt you, to endanger you. And this is really good when we have moments like, maybe we're having a scary moment. I don't know, this is sort of extreme, but maybe you're, getting stalked by a bear. Hopefully this never happens to anyone, and
I think it's happened to you and Michael.
It might. This is kind of why this comes up when I talk about these things. And everyone's like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, well, personal experiences. Your body turns on. Trust me. As everyone can hear, I am fine. We are fine. Nothing ended up happening to us. I said, hey, bear. And the bear was like, yeah, hey. And went away.
Like an image of like Yogi Bear.
Yeah, no, quite literally. That is literally what I said. I turned around to this bear and I said, hey, bear. And he went, rah, and then went away. And we walked very quickly. Walked, didn't run. But anyway, going back to this. So like, when you're in these moments of, these sort of acute stress, it's a good thing to have, right? It's your body loving you. And I want to really stress this because, lots of times we think about the fight flight mode as a bad thing. And it's not a bad thing. It's actually a very good thing. It's wonderful. Yeah. And our body's responding to these things because it wants to protect you. The issue is, as what I was kind of getting into before, is that in our society that we have lots of things continuously going on. And so it's not these like big moments of I need to flee, but it's like, oh, I need to do this project and I don't know how to do this project. Right. And so your body's like, oh my gosh, get me out, because it doesn't know how to differentiate. Right. Maybe meeting a new person. Scary. Don't want to meet that new person. I don't know what they're going to do to me. Probably nothing. They're probably just going to say hi. Right. But it's all of these sort of situations that like when you're going in and you're feeling nervous about them for whatever reason, maybe it's, an experience that you had in the past that then you're kind of projecting into this present moment that you're like, oh no, or maybe it's, maybe you've seen something on TV and that sort of made an impression on you. And so that's why your nervous system is going on to it, or you don't know what's going on. So, your nervous system's like, oh, I don't know what's happening here. Like, like get out of that situation, right? I don't know if it's safe or not. So move away. And
definitely.
And so when we're constantly in this mode and we're not coming back, we're not balancing out with the parasympathetic, we just stay there. And as I said earlier, right, when we're in this mode, it's not just a mental thing, it's very, very much physical, right? So our body tenses, right? So it generally starts with our orifices. So we kind of tense around the eyes, which is why we tense in the forehead, right? We tense in the jaw, around the mouth, in the nose, ears, in our pelvic floor. Lots of times we take this into the shoulders, into the abdomen. So everyone is slightly different where they might first go to hold. But the overall essence is if we're constantly in this state, we're holding for long periods of time, which isn't ideal for our body, right? Because our body can't flow as it should. It can't move. It can't do the things that it needs to.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're able to then bring up that parasympathetic and remind our body, hey, actually, we don't need to stay in here, that is, that's really, really important, because the longer we stay in that sympathetic nervous system, the more our body is exhausted. It's exhausted because it's constantly, putting out these hormones that, in theory should only be sent out for short periods of time and then stopped. And it's constantly holding this tension in the body, which in theory, should only be done for short periods of time and then released. So I really like this sort of exercise. So if anyone wants to try this with me, take your hand and make a fist, and make a really, really tight fist. So like pulling your fingers in as hard as you can. And so as I'm talking, just keep that fist going. And so, like, once again, I really want to stress this again. This is a system that is doing this because it loves you. It wants to support you. But sometimes it doesn't fully understand why it's doing what it's doing. And so that's where, our sort of tune in to ourselves is really important, because then we can remind it, actually, no, this is a situation. Yes, it's a little bit scary because it's something I've never done before, but it's not gonna hurt me per se. Right? Like, and so you kind of have to go in and you have to make those processes. I hope you're still holding your fist. And
I'm holding it.
And so, just think about this. This is only a short period of time, okay, that we've been holding this fist. And, this is your body. This is your body responding to that stressful situation. And then let's say, okay, fine. You're saying, okay, now I can start to relax, start to open your fist. You might find that it's actually quite difficult to open your fingers right now. Right? And this is only a few seconds. So think about it, if we're in that mode for days at a time, right? Like, think of all that tension that's being held there. The body isn't able to do what it needs to do. It's not able to flow the way it needs to flow. And this is what causes the dis-ease that then turns to disease, right? Because it's not able to do what it's supposed to be doing, and it's sending all these things out. And so when your body goes into this, then it sends that back up into the thoughts, it sends it back up into the emotions, and then those keep that cycle. You're having those negative thoughts and negative emotions, and then that sends it back into the body, because the body's going, oh, well, you're having those thoughts, so I'm going to have to continue with that in the supporting and loving myself, as my husband said before we came on here, it's like Olaf, giving you warm hugs.
It did.
Thank you, Michael, for that comment. If anyone wants to learn more about Michael, please go to our episode number 2.
You never know, he might jump in at some point today. Say hello.
He might. Yes. He's back from tour at the moment. He's a touring actor, and he's very excited to be home. So that might happen. You never know. But so when we bring in these practices of just noticing, because sometimes that's all that we need to do. We just need to notice, oh, hey, I'm in this sympathetic mode. Oh, okay. Why am I there? All right. Maybe that's just the trigger that your brain needs to go, actually, no, I don't need to be in this. I can start to relax. Right. Or, we can use different tools and techniques to bring us down, to bring the parasympathetic back up. So yeah, I've been talking a lot. Sarah, do you want to jump in here?
No, it's okay. It's so interesting to hear, because just as you were talking, and obviously we come from different kind of perspectives in some way, don't we? Kind of different modalities. Obviously, kind of I come from a therapeutic perspective, and you come from a yoga perspective and coaching. But actually, to hear that it's so similar as well, and the conversation that you were just having then is so similar to the conversations that I have with my clients as well, and kind of really trying to, so we call it psychoeducation. So kind of really trying to understand the how the body and the brain work together, and those innate processes that we have that, as you say, are, they're not learned. It's we're born with it. We're born with those processes to keep us safe. And something that I like to kind of refer to it sometimes as is, that kind of fight or flight response is something that's really, really important, that we need that response. We need that bit of anxiety, that little bit of stress to keep us safe. But like you were saying, because of the world that we live in, it goes into overdrive sometimes, and it gets a little bit carried away with itself, and it wants to keep protecting us. So it starts to notice more and more things out there that might be dangerous, that might be frightening. Sometimes that's based on the experiences that we've had as well. So we might have had quite a frightening experience, which then might stop us from doing something again. So just thinking about your situation in the woods with a bear, for some people, they may never walk in the woods again because the bear may have frightened them that much that the brain goes, no, it's too dangerous. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go into the woods. So it's really important to bring that parasympathetic nervous system in to then kind of go, no, do you know what? I'm safe. I'm okay. I'm calm. I'm back in the moment. Everything was okay. And to challenge those thoughts as well, challenge those, I was going to say rational thoughts, but they're not really rational thoughts because obviously we were experiencing that feeling in the moment. But to reframe
the trauma thoughts.
Yeah, those trauma thoughts.
Exactly. Because everything that we do, all of our experiences, everything that we interact with, we ingest in some way, right? Mentally, physically. Ingesting doesn't just need to be like food or drink, but it literally is all of our experiences, everything we live through. And so when we're, something doesn't compute and we can't really process it, right? It goes into, our amygdala picks it up, and then it goes into our hippocampus, which is kind of like a filing cabinet of, memories in our brain, and that stays there. And so when we have another experience that's somewhat similar, it doesn't have to be the same thing, right? It can, like, our brain goes, oh, I've been through this before. No, you're not going to do that again.
I know what's going to happen. That's such a good point. I like to refer to it as a blueprint. So schemas, they call it in psychology. I like to refer it to a bit of a blueprint. So we've had an experience, that blueprint then gets filed away in that filing system. And then when we're in that similar or feels like a similar situation, could be very, very different, completely different situation. It might be that it's a feeling that's similar. It might be that it's a similar environment, that all of a sudden similar smell, that we kind of
sense. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the senses, that's something we're going to look at, aren't we? Maybe in the future, is the senses, that it triggers that response, doesn't it? It triggers our brain to kind of go into action. So that sympathetic nervous system gets triggered to go, oh, I know what's going to happen next, because we need to respond really quickly because we think there's a danger. We think there's a threat. I need to respond quickly. So then we respond in the way that the blueprint is kind of determined how we're going to respond. And actually, when I talk about that with clients, they find it so helpful, because when they are then in a new situation, if they can feel that kind of physical response building and then notice those thoughts, lots of people tell me that they go, there's that blueprint again. Actually, I'm going to respond differently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So in yoga therapy or mindfulness coaching, we might call that sort of like the messenger, right? So what are the messengers that are bringing these things up for you, in that blueprint? And then looking, okay, so when I can identify those messengers, and really acknowledge them with compassion, right? Because this is something that our body does because it wants to protect us, coming back to that once more, right? And so, don't look at it and go, oh my God, I can't believe I'm like responding this way again. No, okay, fine. Like this is what my body is doing. And, how can I start sort of accept that, but then at the same time, readjust, reframe how I'm responding to it. And that could be through techniques like, just calming yourself in that situation.
Yeah.
Bringing up that parasympathetic, bringing up that rest, digest mode of your nervous system. It could be like just like changing the way you talk to yourself in that moment as well. So like all of these things, once again, they're all connected. And it is fascinating nowadays. Like, we say that, yes, you know, you work in more of the sort of Western therapy, psychotherapy, you know, realm, me more in the mindfulness, coaching, yoga therapy. But in the end, nowadays, we're able to see that it is connected, right? Because everything is connected.
Yeah.
It's, we can't
Yeah.
just put them in boxes, which is why I personally love what I do, because it is the opening up, you know, to that conversation and saying, and what I love what we're doing here as well, you know, opening up this conversation and really looking at, you know, our responses in to life in general, in a very holistic manner.
Definitely. It
And
reminds
it's
me,
incredibly
Tess,
important.
of it reminds me of so when I trained in CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy. So initially that was cognitive therapy. So it was very in our heads. And then obviously kind of brought the behavioral aspect into that as well. And actually there's a new wave called the third wave of CBT, which is much more holistic. So mindfulness CBT, for example, or compassion focused therapy. As well, and acceptance and commitment therapy, you know, they're all kind of third waves of CBT. So it's still got that CBT element, but is bringing in things like relaxation techniques, breathing exercises, meditation. And it's fascinating because it really does help, because like you say, it gives people those techniques as well to activate that parasympathetic nervous system. It gives them those techniques, because something that always struck with me is when we're in that fight or flight kind of response, actually the rational part of the brain isn't activated, because all the energy is actually going to the part of the brain that's automatic, that is kind of going, right, I need to take over now because I need to keep you safe. So the rational part of the brain's not activated. And something that I kind of speak to clients with, so just a little technique is, so just the word stop. So kind of stopping, taking a little bit of time, observing. And then what does the P stand for? I think it's practice as well. And that's really, really important, is we need to stop, we need to observe. So as soon as we notice that we kind of, could just be that all of a sudden we get like a little bit of a feeling in our chest. I know that's where, if I'm a bit anxious about something, I feel it in my throat and my chest, and that's where I feel. And then I kind of take myself back and I go, oh, what's that about? What's going on? Like, what's happening here? And I think people say to me quite a lot, but how do I not get to the point where it's kind of thinking about the stress bucket, it's overflowed, and there's all these kind of negative thoughts, feelings, emotions, and behaviors going on. How do I not get to that point? And it is about stopping and just taking a breath, taking a step back.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just going to point out, if you guys hear a little noise in the background, that is Sarah's pug.
It's
snoring away, I think.
The cabin. She is. It's too hot to sit in the cabin, so I'm in the lounge with her.
I think it's so cute. I was just like cracking up because I could just hear Rose in the background like
she just wants to make an appearance. If you look on the Instagram page, there's a little picture of her on there, so then you'll be able to put a face to the snore.
yep, exactly. But no, exactly. And going back to what you were saying, you know, it's this education, it's an understanding, right? And like you say, you know, it's the psychoeducation that we both do. And I think it's really important that as you know, professionals, that we're able to give this to the people that come to us, because it's important to understand why your body is doing what it's doing, and so that you don't judge yourself, you know, and that you're able to like take that time to pause and stop. I use pause, you use stop, but it's you know, that idea of you're taking a moment, you're tuning in, you're bringing awareness to the situation, and you're not judging yourself for it. And I think that that is really important, because when we start to judge ourselves, then we go back into that sympathetic, right? We're going back into like those limiting beliefs that then set you off again. You're going back into those messengers. So like, if you notice that you're doing that, once again, pause. Oh, hey, I just judged myself, right? No judgment there. Once again, I just judged myself. Okay, what does that mean? Why is that coming up? How can I, reframe it? How can I come back into the present? I think we've said this before on the podcast, but I'm going to say it again. Stress doesn't exist in the present. Stress exists in the past and it exists in the future, right? And so when we're able to come back and ground in the present moment, we are able to ignite and stimulate our parasympathetic nervous system. And so, just taking those moments to really come back into the present, using things like your senses. We talked about those before, and Sarah said, we want to do a full season of senses because they're incredible. But just using your senses to come back into the moment and to remind yourself, because once again, your proprioceptive system, that's part of what that is your senses, and it's your muscles, it's your skin, it's scanning your environment. So when your environment, when you're allowing yourself to pause in that environment and go, oh, actually, yeah, everything is okay, right? I'm safe. Then
Definitely.
your body goes, oh, okay.
Definitely. And then I think I really like that idea. It's like, it's not about kind of judging yourself at all. And it's about bringing that compassion. And then, once we're able to kind of go, right, I'm calm, we can then go back and look at what was that about? What was in that situation that really triggered that response? And I think that's really important. And Tess is laughing at me because she can hear Rosa snoring.
I'm trying not to. I'm sorry, because this is so important. It's just so cute.
But I think in lots of ways, though, actually, Rosa being here, it brings that little bit of humour, doesn't it, as well? And that, for me, in therapy and in life, is so important.
Oh, I agree.
I talk about that all the time, how bringing humour into everything is really, really important. So hopefully Rosa has given everybody a little bit of a chuckle at some point today.
Yes, exactly. And it's humor is a way to lighten. It's actually a really good way when you're laughing. That's like one of the brilliant ways to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, because your body's going, oh, well, if it's funny, then I'm definitely okay, right? And so it stimulates. We have a nerve called the vagus nerve in our body, and vagus means wandering. And I'm not going to go into it fully right here, because I did actually make a little YouTube video. So if you're interested, go to we'll put a link to it in the show notes. But very, very shortly, it's a nerve that wanders through the body. It starts in the stem of the brain, and it moves through the face, into the chest, down into the gut. And so when we're able to do things like laugh or hum or stimulate that nerve in some way, then this nerve, when it's stimulates, or it turns on the parasympathetic. And so your body goes, oh, well, if that's turning on, then I'm okay, right? And so it's really quite interesting that our body has these amazing resources built in to, first off, check your surroundings. How are you doing? Am I okay? No, okay, let me go into this mode that's going to get me out of that. And then B, to have something that goes, okay, for some reason that's still on. When this is stimulated, we can then calm down and come back into a more of a relaxed mode. And it's just so cool that it's all built in, right? And sometimes, because of our experiences that we have in life, we need a little extra support, guidance, resources to learn out how to do that. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I want to really put that out there, that asking for support in these things is very beneficial. And, all of us have moments where we do need that extra support, and that's okay. Whether that's, through a family member, through a therapist, through a coach, or, a yoga therapist, whoever it is, asking for that extra support is fine. But we do have these really amazing tools built in to our bodies, and when we know how to leverage them, then it's just a complete game changer.
Definitely. And I think we were saying, weren't we, Tess, that we were going to offer that as our happy edit tool as well today. So you mentioned about humming breathing or bee breath, is that right?
Yes. So it's in Sanskrit, it's called Brahmari. But yeah, it's a bee breath or a humming breath. And so what we do is we inhale through the nose as best as we can. If that's not possible, then fine, skip that part. And then with our mouth closed, we hum. And we let that hum go for as long as we can. If it's not very long, that's okay. Right. And so, just see what happens. And we would do this 5 to 6 times, more or less. Okay. You might notice that each time you do it, maybe you're able to get that hum a little bit longer. So there's a few aspects to this that make it really beneficial. The vibrations turn on the vagus nerve, which is kind of what I was talking about before. It stimulates that nerve, which then brings on the parasympathetic. So that's pretty cool. It also, by exhaling out through the nose in general, we release a chemical in the body called nitric oxide. And what nitric oxide does is it opens up the airways in the lungs. It also helps slow the heart rate, and it sort of cleans things out a little bit. Pretty cool stuff. And so when we do this humming breath, what the studies have found is that it actually releases 15 to 20% more than we would if we just breathe out through the nose normally, which is pretty awesome, right? So it's like, this is a breath technique that's really, really good for bringing your heart rate down, for getting more air into your body. And then also, because of all of these things that are happening, we're able to actually extend our breath longer. And the longer we have our exhale to go, the more our parasympathetic nervous system is stimulated. So our breath is actually connected to the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. Our inhale is connected to our sympathetic nervous system. So, when you have sort of those scary moments, what's one of your first reactions? You breathe in, right? You get this air in. Okay, I get this air in. Let's go, right? And then when you have, you're sort of whatever happened, the bad thing didn't happen, or it's done, it's over. What's the first thing that you go? Right? Like you release it. True. You're releasing all that tension. You're letting the breath go. And that's also the turn on to the parasympathetic, saying, okay, actually, I'm okay. So when we're doing a breath technique like humming breath, like bee breath, then we're able to really allow this give this, going back to sort of that warm hug, right? Giving that warm hug to your body, saying you're okay, you're fine. And one of the practices that we might do in yoga is we might also cover the eyes and gently close the ears. So you're just focusing on that in your body, but you don't have to do that by any means. It can just be through the humming. And it's cool. It's a really cool breath technique. I shared it. I share it with like everyone, because it's awesome. But one of the women that I work with, she's an older woman, in her late 60s, and she was at the gym one day, and she was noticing that her heart rate was getting up a little bit higher than it should be. And she's like, oh, Tess said that this brings heart rate down. Let's see if it actually works. And she tried it out, and her heart rate went right down. And she's like, oh my God, this is legit. It's not just like yoga woo woo, like Tess knows her stuff. So she came back the next day. We had class together. We had a session together. She's like, I just have to tell you, this is amazing. This happened. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad.
Oh, that's
And it's good for me
brilliant.
too. It does actually work. I always love hearing those things. Like, and it does work for people. I'm so glad to hear that.
Oh, definitely. I do it in sessions sometimes where we might just do a few little breathing exercises, and people do say like, "Oh, I do feel calmer. I feel more relaxed." Like
Yeah.
just by just doing five breaths
Yeah.
in, five
It,
out.
exactly. It doesn't have to take long. And sometimes all we need to do is just bring a little awareness to the breath. We don't even have to do anything to it. Sometimes just by bringing that awareness, it starts to even the inhale out with the exhale.
Mhm.
Yes, having a longer exhale is great, but than your inhale. But sometimes we because of where we're at, what's going on in our life, what's going on in our body at the moment, your inhale might be really like sharp and your exhale might be non-existent. And so just getting that a little bit longer, just maybe one count longer, one whatever longer, helps to bring that. So it's not about, breathing techniques. And I hear this all the time, do 4 by 6 or 4 by 8 breath or 4 by 6 breath, breathe in 4, exhale 6 or exhale 8. Brilliant. The more you can have that exhale, if it's double your inhale, that's amazing. However, when we are in moments of stress, when we're in moments of overwhelm, when we're in moments of anxiety, that is not possible usually. And it actually stresses us more to push ourselves to try to get that breath longer. So always meet yourself where you are, which is coming back to that love moment, right? That your body is doing this to love you. So you should meet it with love as well and say, okay, let's be compassionate to ourselves, to come back in, to bring back that balance.
Definitely. And it's something for people to practice when they're not feeling stressed as well. So I know within CBT, one of the things, especially for something for like panic disorder, we would never say to kind of come back to your breath straight away. So if you're panicking, it's really tempting that we want to kind of focus on our breath, but actually what we need to do is we need to notice that situation isn't scary. So we need to really kind of be more in our thoughts in that moment. And I won't go into lots and lots of detail about this now. It could be something that we could talk about in the future. But it's some concentrating on your breathing when we're not feeling anxious or we're not feeling stressed is really beneficial. It's not something we should just do when we're in those moments of anxiety, because it's about changing that blueprint, isn't it? What we were talking about before. What we don't want to do is create breathing exercises as a safety behavior of the only way I can calm down is by breathing exercises. I hope that makes sense, because I know I've not gone into too much detail.
Yeah, no, it does.
About
It
that.
does. And I completely agree. Like, I remember when I first I was really struggling with anxiety, and one of the things that people were like, oh, do this meditation, and the meditation was very much focusing on breath, and it freaked me out. Like I would start to hyperventilate, so I learned, okay, no, like I need to find a way to ground myself first. And so there's loads of techniques to do that, right? And to say, okay, I'm in the present, I'm okay right now. And then that's when we dive into the breath work. And like you're saying, it's practicing as well. So it's like the wax on, wax off moment, Karate Kid style. The more you practice these things, it's a muscle. It becomes like muscle memory. So when you practice it, as I would say, sometimes like on the mat, or, in those moments of sort of practice of calm, then your body, when it just automatically starts to do these things, when it notices it's getting into that process, because it goes, oh, well, this is beneficial, I'm going to just start to do it anyway. So it becomes an automatic response in some ways, right? And so it is really cool, because not only are we doing it to benefit ourselves in that moment, of course, but then it also becomes this this support for us, this internal support for us later on.
Definitely. Well, I've really enjoyed our chat today, Tess. It's been really, really interesting. And I would love to hear other people's kind of experiences and views and stuff. So if anybody does want to kind of send us a message or put a post on Instagram or however you want to contact us, then it'd be great to hear other people's experiences and things like that.
Yes, yes, yes. Please let us know. And also, you know, if you are enjoying the podcast, we would love to have you rate it either on iTunes or Spotify. Leave us, you know, a review as well. All of these things, you know, it just brings us such joy, such happiness to see that you're interacting with it, that you're learning from it. But then also, you know, this way we can learn as well, like what maybe other things you'd like us to cover. You know, send us a message and be like, hey, like, would you go over this sort of thing? Because that, you know, we want this to be beneficial for you. We enjoy doing it. You know, we just enjoy talking about this stuff, but we also really want to make sure that we're, you know, we're giving you the what you're looking for as well. So please reach out, let us know, leave us a review, comment, rating, all of the above.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tess.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. At the Happy Edit podcast, we're mindful that the podcast is not in replacement of therapy. If you do need further support, please do contact us on our contact details in the show notes. And we're more than happy to offer further support and guidance and direct you to places like the counselling directory or therapy directories. If you do also need further support, we would also recommend you contacting your primary healthcare provider. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you all soon.